The QPR podcast is supported by Ubico, the provider of rental cars by the hour, who are giving away over £2,000 in credit to our listeners. For your chance to win up to £250 in free credit towards away game travel, short journeys across town, or car club use, enter now at west12media.co.uk/enter. To find out more, visit ubico.co.uk or download their app now.
QPR, Chris Park Rangers are on the up and up. QPR, now we're heading for European.
Hello and welcome to Open All R's, the QPR podcast. I'm David Fraser, joined by the other three founders of the QPR podcast. We have Paul Finney.
Hello.
We have Chris Charles.
Hello.
We have Chris Mendes.
Hello.
Right, on the agenda this week, loads to talk about. We've got to get through the state of the Ellerslie Road toilets. We've got to talk about Brexit. Got some US election insight coming up. We've got top 10 gluten-free restaurants to visit in London. And also, we're going to be talking a bit later in the show about the new Walker's Crisps range, Mix-Ups, which I understand combines all your favourite Walker's Crisps. Anything else I've missed out?
Can't think of anything.
I am joking, of course. This is a QPR podcast, and there is only one item on the agenda this week, maybe one and a half if we want to talk briefly about Saturday. It's the departure of Jimmy Floyd Hasselbaink. Just before we go on to that, first of all, we're going to do a bit of Facebook Live tonight, which if you're listening to this, go on our Facebook page after and have a look at what we did. The way to find us is look for the QPR podcast on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter at QPR Pod, and you can find all our episodes at qprpod.co.uk. Initial reactions, gentlemen, to the news. When was it? Was it Saturday night? Late Saturday night that Jimmy has left the club. We know we're going to be... You've got kind of Jimmy by the stats, Chris, coming up later.
I've done a few stats.
We're going to talk about the runners and riders to replace him. But initial reactions to the, what do they call it now? Leave by mutual consent of the manager. And we will start with Chris Charles.
Well, shock, to be honest. I've been doing night shifts all week doing cricket, so I managed to stay awake long enough to find out we'd... managed to get a draw at Nottingham Forest, which I was quite pleased with. Went back to work about 1:30 in the morning and didn't find out until I was in the taxi on the way to work. And yeah, to be honest, I went to bed thinking, well, you know, Jimmy's bought himself another game or two at least there. Because I didn't go to Forest. I'm sure Paul's going to enlighten us a bit more on that. But from all the stuff I've read on the message boards and Twitter, usual sort of first half, we were sort of, you know, standing back and inviting them to, you know, wave upon wave of attack and leaving holes galore, big as Jose Mourinho's bus at the back for them to exploit, even though they're rubbish. But yeah, when we had the man sent off, we were galvanised and looked, according to some, one of the best performances we'd had all season. So the timing seemed very strange to me. If you're going to sack him, and I know it's, you know, been mooted for a while that he's on sort of borrowed time, but if you're going to sack him, why not sack him after the Brentford game? And also the manner that Tony Fernandes tweet sort of before he was sacked, was before, wasn't it, Paul?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It just all seemed a bit odd.
Yeah, I wasn't that surprised, to be honest. I thought the Brentford result and the performance was kind of the end for him, and I wasn't totally surprised that he didn't go up immediately after the Brentford game, because I think they looked at this international break. They've got enough time to get someone in. They're always going to do it in that time. They maybe just gave him a chance. So if we, you know, went away to Nottingham Forest and beat him 2 or 3-0 and put on a brilliant performance, then maybe they would have decided to stick with him. But
surely they must have put feelers out before. If you know after the Brentford game he's going to go, you must. Surely that's what happens in business. You open discussions with one or
maybe
more people.
Yeah, you follow each other on Twitter.
Yeah.
But it's bizarre because...
As Paul Clement has. Paul, what do you think?
Certainly, second half we didn't play that bad. First half we were rubbish. Absolutely rubbish again. Carl Henry came on the pitch and just wanted to get sent off. I don't know if he had a taxi waiting or something, and was just being silly and didn't help his manager at all.
That's where he's gone wrong. We should have started every game this season with 10 men.
Well, maybe, and we played all right, and then you sort of come back on the train, and you know you get back into London, and you go for a quick medicinal paint, and then it starts breaking through on everyone's phone that, you know, bang, he's gone. So I didn't see it coming that way. I think if they would, it kind of, I suppose, if you look at it honestly, after Fernandes and Les Ferdinand had that conversation on Friday during the Brentford or whatever it was, when the cameras panned in on them, you kind of knew then that he was heading for the exit door. I mean, you can imagine the conversation. All right, Jimmy, no pressure. No manager's ever won here before. Our record is shambolic. We've never actually won. Go get a win, save your job. You know.
So what
not a lot of pressure, that.
What would have happened if they'd have won? I suppose he would have won a stay of execution, wouldn't he?
Well, it depends if they'd let someone lined up.
Well, they couldn't have sacked him after we've never won there before, with the first side ever to win there, and then you go and sack the manager. That would have been ludicrous.
It's QPR. We do pantomimes better than anyone.
Right decision.
I think football-wise, I mean, I don't know what you guys think. I think the football was making people run for the exit doors, and the football was dire. But everyone says we were building stuff, and there was an excellent article by Ted Kester which said, "Oh, we're here for the long haul," which means that, presuming from that, what I got from that was, you know, just see where we're going to go, back him as long as you can, see if you can actually change youth, everything else. But personally, I think his football was dire. It was absolutely dire. You know, really, really negative, and.
But it's been almost exactly a year since they sacked Ramsey, and they must have looked at that and said, "Have we made any progress? No. Has our style of play improved? Not really. Hasselbaink, he's not very charismatic. Can another manager get better out of the players that we've got there? Definitely, yes."
But when I look back at the Telegraph thing, which we've got to talk about in some respects, the club couldn't have backed him anymore. I mean, the club were absolutely 100% behind him. And we beat Fulham, and you had that, you know.
Yeah, but if they sacked him at that point, then it might have been complicated legally.
Yeah, but it's just but they did the Tony and him. You know, it's always a photograph. If you're a QPR manager, I mean, if you're listening to this, Paul Clement or Ian Holloway or anyone, don't have your photograph taken with Tony after a win, because 5 weeks later it could be dodgy. You know, because this is something we'll have to talk about later on. Is like, we keep doing this, saying that we've got the right man in the job. We're a family stick together. 5 weeks later, we've kicked him out of the family. You know, anyone got any insight?
No, I don't. Where I was on Saturday night, I was with a bunch of, with some QPR fans, but mainly they weren't. The initial reaction was, "Oh, it must be to do with that Telegraph stuff," and I gather it's got nothing to do with that. I gather it's all football related. There's two ways of looking at it. One way of looking at it is, well, you know, you talk about the long haul, and you know, he shouldn't be sacked after a year. How can you tell under a year how a manager is going to perform? The other point of view is, if he ain't got it, he ain't got it. So put the guy and put the club out of his misery. If it's not going to work for us, why not make this decision? I feel like this was almost a unique sacking by the club. So by my reckoning, Tony Fernandes has had four out of his 5 managers have been here for less than a year. But yeah, Mark Hughes was sacked too late, and I think Chris Ramsey was sacked too early. Neil Warnock was sacked, I believe, was sacked too early.
Redknapp was sacked too late.
Well, I suppose Redknapp can be judged a success. I suppose, you know,
he got up to the playoffs.
You know, but 4 out of the 5 of them, they didn't get the timings right. They either got rid of them too early or too late. Hasselbaink wasn't going to take us down. I don't believe we were going to go down. We were just going to meander towards the end of this season in this, playing this dreadful football that everyone was bought. And so, actually, is it not the right time to get rid of him? If we're not in a terminal decline, he hasn't done that much damage. Is it not the right time to get rid of a manager who's a bit meh, as they say?
I don't think Tony Fernandes sees it like that. He actually believes we should be challenging for promotion with the squad that we've got. We have spent quite a bit of money, maybe a little bit more than people think we have. And he's even said recently, you know, he's talking about how far away we are from the playoffs. So he's eyeing that up.
Well, I think
rumours are he thinks that, you know, he even said to Hasselbaink after the Brentford game that we should be challenging for promotion with these players.
Well, I think we should be challenging for the playoffs with these players, really. I mean, we had a period of consolidation, which I think was fair enough. And, okay, yeah...
2 games ago we were. You can't say, you know, 2 games ago we were what, 4 points off, 5 points off?
Yeah, and we're only 6 off now. I'm not saying I'm just saying the aim for this season should have been to challenge for the playoffs, and we're 6 off the playoffs and 6 off the bottom 3, I think. So we're sort of I mean, you know, 2 wins, 2 defeats either way. I mean, so I'm not saying that, but I think that should have been the aim. I don't think the aim this season should have been to finish 10th, 12th or whatever. I think last season was different.
I think what Hasselbaink suffered from, which isn't his fault, maybe we can blame him for playing people in a position, we can blame him for the tactics at times, we can blame him for some really bizarre subs, but what isn't his fault is that the Rangers fans, in my theory, have got defeat fatigue at home. We're fed up turning up, expecting to lose. We're actually now, people are going, well, we'll lose it. They're not expecting to win, and that's down to the years in the Premiership. We got battered week in, week out, I think everyone's just, like Emily said last week, everyone's bored. People want to see something happening. They want to see, and maybe that's football now, they want to see this new building project evolve rapidly in front of their eyes, and maybe it is going to take time.
Yeah, but I think that maybe that is Hasselbank's fault, or partly his fault, because of the football that's been dished up. I mean, people, you just look at me included. It's almost like, they call it highway hypnosis. If you drive the same route every day, I mean, you would know this, and you arrive at your destination, and you can't.
Beating about me then, have you, Chris?
If someone tells you exactly how you got there, you think, I can't. I feel like that at the football. I'm sitting around. 20 minutes have gone past, and I've just been staring into space because it's been so dull. And my daughter's still coming along. Like I say to her, you sure you want to come along this week? And you can see all the empty seats around. You can see and people are the walk up customers who come along, pay 30 quid or whatever ridiculous fee it is, and then just to sit there for 90 minutes getting bored in the cold. I mean, they're not going to come back.
But that's the trouble, though. Is I go back to it. But we've had this for how many home games did we win last season? We didn't win that many last season. Season before that, I mean, you're talking about less than 10 home games a season, even less than 7 to be fair. And people are turning up now and they're kind of thinking, whereas under Holloway, when we had nothing, with no money, and we're free truck, you didn't expect us to win, but you're bloody grateful when we did, and you really had a good crack. So I guess we're kind of Hasselbank's in a crossfire of that. Although saying that, some of his decisions at times were bizarre.
Inflexibility did for him in the end, wasn't it? Do you remember we had him on?
Yeah.
We had him on 4 or 5 weeks ago, and as he was talking about how he can't change the system because he has to play to Chiron Cherry and the players will learn this system, we wrote down on a piece of paper inflexible, and we kind of showed it around the table, and obviously we didn't say anything at the time because we try to be polite, but it was obvious then the guy is just stubborn and inflexible. I think that is what did for him.
Well, it is also not a very good communicator. I think it doesn't really energise the
got
fans.
offered a lot of money for speeches. You should do.
I know, that's exactly.
Beat me to it.
I was going to say that's the only time he's ever come across completely clear about exactly what he wants. But again, this is just through reading stuff on the message boards, Paul. But our lineup at the end on Saturday, we had Cherry in the middle, and Cousins in the middle. And we had a winger, we had El Kayati and Shadipo on either wing. It actually looked like, for the first time in a long time, we'd got round pegs in round holes. And it's quite ironic in a way that he goes just at the time when the team looks like it's capable of doing something. But then, because it's Hasselbaink, the chances are the following week that would have been dismantled and he'd have gone back to square one again.
The trouble with Cherry is, that, again, this is talking tactics and players, is that he's building a team around a player who's really out of form. And the thing about it's not the club's fault. I mean, it's social media the way things are these days. But we don't have overhyped players these days. We make people sound a hell of a lot better than what they actually are, rather than let the players bed in and become. But that's legends. Because we try and make them legends before they get there.
That's because we're crying out for somebody to do that. We're clinging on after.
That's what I said. Social media in general.
I realised that with the England squad yesterday. I know we're deviating slightly. That England squad. I mean, it's dross, really. I think the strikers are quite good, but some of these players... And I thought then exactly what you've just said. Everybody is overhyped to the point where you actually can't really tell who's any good anymore, apart from the unbelievable ones.
We're also... Sorry, Chris. We're also clinging on to somebody to... Like I say, we had Charlie Austin, we had Tarab before that. We had, Forlan to an extent, maybe even Clint Hill. We're looking out for somebody we can sort of, we can, get behind and have that exciting player. Not that Clint Hill was exciting, but he was one of our lot. That, by the way, is another thing. I think I go back to that, letting Forlan and Hill go. I still don't think that was the right decision.
I'd actually ask Chris this, because you're quite good in European football. Well, I struggle with English football, to be honest with you, and don't even start with Irish football. But do you think there is a case...
We won't.
Okay.
We promise we won't.
That we brought too many overseas players in to try and... Do you need championship players in the championship? Or would that sort of project take time?
Yeah, possibly. I think not necessarily... It's fine bringing overseas players, a few, if they've got championship experience, but having that experience in the championship is quite important, I think. We had Kevin Gallen on last week who was saying exactly the same thing. But even so, I don't think that's necessarily like the big part of the problem. I think was really stubborn.
Okay.
And especially with Cherry, Cherry's started every single game in the league this season. He's only been off the pitch for 11 minutes. He came off 3 times towards right at the end of the season. If you're building a team around a player like that, he's only had 2 assists in those 16 games, scored 3 penalties and 1 free kick, no goals from out of play, 44 shots on goal, 26 more than any other QPR player, but not scored from open play yet.
Isn't it? I mean, if he's supposed to be a playmaker, I mean, that again, maybe it's not all his fault because he's been shoved out. He's been shoved out wide, and that's not really the ideal place.
He hasn't played wide that often, buddy. You mean?
Well, fair bit. Although I've seen he has. He's sort of been drifting out to the.
I know what you mean, Slab. I mean, it wasn't his natural position, but there's no one else taking up the ante.
Yeah.
I think our problem has been we haven't had our full backs get absolutely slow because Loftus Road is a small pitch and the other team's wingers week after week come to Loftus Road and absolutely kill us, and we don't seem to try and do that. Brentford played Fulham the other day. Fulham doubled up.
Yeah,
and won the game. You know, maybe the inflexibility with Hasselbaink is that he just doesn't. He's got this idea. He's playing that, but we don't seem to be doing the opposition scouting that well.
When did he ever start with 2 up front? Even the games where people said he started with 2 up front. I can't remember who we played the home game before last with Washington. He didn't start with 2 up front. He had 2 named strikers, but he played Washington out wide. He just persisted with this system. What I would like to know is, so my understanding is the club dismissed him for footballing reasons, style of play, exactly the stuff that we're saying. What I would like to know, and we won't get an answer to, is did the club warn him? You know, if you're going to lose your job in real life, you get told you need to sort it out. You know, you're told it's not quite working the way that you're doing it. This is what you need to do. Was he ever told at any point, we're not sure about this style of play, Jimmy? What else have you got?
Well, if anyone's going to say that to him, then it would be Les Ferdinand.
Yeah.
Ferdinand's done all of his coaching badges, and I'm not sure. Yeah,
but did Les Ferdinand want him to go? Is this Tony Fernandez and the board's decision? I mean, we don't know. Again, we don't know. We don't know whether Les is 100% behind this decision.
Les sacked him.
Did he sack him because he was told to sack him, or did he sack him because he thought he should go?
Do you remember that film years ago? We've got to talk about Kevin, and it's like it's a similar thing with Les, because it's like we've got to talk about it, but then
we need to talk about Les,
and then as soon as you try and talk about him, people start throwing this evil Les tag around. When no one's saying in a million years, Les Ferdinand is 100% a QPR legend. Always will be.
Yeah.
But
what's stopping him from becoming the manager?
I would have said lack of experience, but that doesn't stop most QPR managers becoming the manager.
Why not? I mean,
why doesn't he want the job?
Maybe because he just knows in November he's going to have to find a new one.
He's under pressure now.
I don't think he is.
Well, he should be. I mean, he's given a bit of grace, but 3 managers in a row that don't work out. I think questions will be asked, as they say. I mean, if they're not already.
Redknapp really wasn't his guy, and as soon as
no, I'm talking about the next one.
Oh right, okay,
If the next one doesn't work, not that I'm anticipating it won't work, but 2 in a row have been short, sharp, and not very successful.
It is quite an important role because Ferdinand's position there does make the managerial role completely different at QPR. You saw it when he came in, and Redknapp called it a stupid title, so obviously that bothered him, and it will bother other managers. So it does potentially limit what kind of managers you can bring into the club.
What's the hierarchy there with Lee Hughes and Les Ferdinand? Are they on a par?
Different departments.
I know they're different departments.
Les is a department head, so Lee Hughes is the boss, and he has the marketing department reporting to him and the club shop, and he has football, and Les Ferdinand's the head of football.
Okay.
And beneath him is Chris Ramsey.
And Lee Hughes is everyone's boss.
Who decides who brings the manager in, though? Is that who?
Well, that's like.
Is that a committee decision?
Well, if you extend the analogy, it would be who decides who's going to be an assistant manager in the club shop. It will be the manager of the club shop, wouldn't it? Making a recommendation to Lee Hughes, presumably.
Right, that's what I mean. So Lee,
it'll be Les Ferdinand.
Do you think Lee Hughes has the final say, though?
Won't it? Well,
No, I'm just asking. I'm curious.
I'd say Lee Hoos kind of stays a bit out of the football decisions in terms of like player recruitment and manager recruitment,
but does the negotiation.
Yeah.
That's
when we did Hasselbaink. It was Lee did a thing with Les Ferdinand, and they said that it was basically them two and Tony Fernandes. And I think Ruben gets involved as well. So it's probably done by committee.
So it's a committee decision.
But I mean, Les has got a lot to say. But the trouble is that I keep getting fed up with this. You say anything about Les and you get slaughtered. No one's saying that Les is a bad human being. He just might not be suited to this role. It might not work for him at QPR like it doesn't work for anybody else at QPR. But it won't stop him, nevertheless, being welcome back at QPR as a legend, which is what he is. But
what is it about QPR? Because
we
Mark
kill legends.
Hughes is a good manager. Jimmy Floyd Hasselbaink, I believe, will be a good manager. What is it about QPR that it just doesn't work out for people there?
Just stop you there. I can't speak for anyone else, but when Hasselbaink was appointed, I was quite happy with that appointment.
So was I.
And I think most
it
people
was a good
were.
appointment, and they did their research.
What I didn't do with my
I
I looked at Burton's league position, I looked at the size of the club, and I looked at how well they'd done. What I didn't delve deeper. I didn't look exactly how they'd won every single game. And I think that is one of the things, as we touched on earlier, that's cost him, because people are just bored to tears with the safety first football, and then now all that sort of pushing the defence so high up, and it's so easy to work out. You just loop the ball over the top and they're in.
Okay, right. Let's move on. I think now we're going to move on to a QPR podcast first, right? We're going to have a little bit of light relief in the middle, and we're going to play around on Facebook Live. Okay, so what we're doing is we thought, how can we pick the next QPR manager? Nobody knows who it's going to be, and so we've devised our own game, which involves a QPR beanie hat, some... Chris, let's have a look.
So, loads of balls.
And Chris Charles.
Chris, and it was Chris's idea.
Explain, Chris.
Okay, right.
Who is in what?
Okay, we've got 8 numbers: 1 Tim Sherwood, 2 Paul Clement, 3 Ian Holloway, 4 Steve Cotterill, 5 Gary Rowett, 6 Carl Robinson, 7 Mark Bircham, 8 Nigel Pearson. And
whoever you pick out now is 100% going to be the next QPR manager.
Exactly it, yeah.
Okay, are we all ready?
We're all set.
Have to monitor our reactions.
Yes, absolutely.
Harry, you look fascinated.
No warm balls.
Okay.
No warm balls.
I tell you what.
Drum roll.
Come on.
And it is number 8, Nigel Pearson.
Nigel Pearson. Finney, your reaction, please.
Can we do that again?
Chris, your reaction, please.
Oh, he's odd.
You wouldn't want to fight him, would you?
Chris, your reaction?
Yeah, I think we abandon that system and go back to the traditional way. It can't be any worse.
So
than that.
Nigel Pearson's out. Let's keep going until we got the last one.
Do you reckon that's the nearest we've ever got to a QPR board meeting? Do you reckon?
But we
they're probably doing the same thing right now.
The good news is that this is our most successful Facebook Live video ever.
Excellent.
How many more
Thank
we
you
done?
to all 3 of you
I
watching.
can't say. Someone has Dean Michael Dibble has already said on the comments, FO. Pearson is a word for a man's appendage.
Something that rhymes with knock.
Right.
Okay. Well, do you know what? Well, let's talk about the manager. Let's keep the Facebook Live video going for a bit and sort of have a non-tennis ball based table tennis ball based discussion about it. What do we think? So let's go through the runners and riders. What do we think about who the next manager might be?
Well, we'll start with the order we did it. We'll start with Tim Sherwood.
Tim Sherwood has never managed in the Championship. He has never lasted as a manager at any club for more than 1 full season. But he played for England and Spurs, so he's high profile. He probably suits QPR, but I think it'd be a terrible decision.
Well, I think we've done a good job in getting rid of all the Billy Big Bollocks from our club, and I just think it would turn into the Tim Sherwood show, which is probably not what we want at this stage.
Finney?
Do you know, as this has been going on,
Steve Sace has said Finney could have had a shave.
He could. Yeah, I won't start. Do you know, as this is going on, just for sheer getting everyone going, what about a Holloway Bircham partnership?
Yeah.
Bircham learning from
to
Holloway.
the end of the season?
Yeah, why not? To get everyone going, to get that 2004 feeling back, to get that love back in the stadium, to get the place rocking again.
I'd happily have Ian Holloway back. It would be
with
good fun.
Bircham as assistant as well.
Just to bring a bit of life into the club.
Yeah, that would breathe new life. Steve Cotterill, I wouldn't touch the barge pole.
No, that's Richard Keys' favourite for the job, Steve Cotterill. So
Richard
that's another
Keys,
reason not
Richard
to.
Keys,
employ
eh?
him.
There's a bloke.
Why wouldn't you touch him with the barge pole?
I wouldn't touch him with a barge ball.
What, Richard Keys? Or
Yeah,
Steve
Richard
Cotterill?
Keys.
Okay, so do you know what? Let's go through on the basis that probably the manager is going to be amongst those 8. Let's go through them. So Sherwood is a no. Anyone Sherwood? Yes.
No.
I'm certainly not a Sherwood. Yes.
Paul Clement is the next on the list.
It wouldn't be the worst thing we could do.
It wouldn't, but he has.
Well, it's interesting you say that. Why do you say Sherwood would be a disaster, but Paul Clement wouldn't? And I say that because he has less experience as a manager than Tim Sherwood does. Whoever is going to be the next manager, I just don't want them to be inexperienced. And to my mind, in retrospect, Jimmy Floyd Hasselbaink was too inexperienced. He had about 50 games under his belt. Tim Sherwood has about the same. Paul Clement has very few games under his belt. Pick a manager with 200, 300, 400 plus games. To my mind, even Carl Robinson would be a better option because the guy's managed for 400 games. He's made his mistakes. He knows how to manage a team. I'm not saying necessarily he is or will be my favourite, but pick a manager with some experience.
But then you could also argue the case that Paul Clement has actually been around the biggest clubs in Europe and been in every major competition and knows.
Brian Kidd. Tell us about how he was. No. Paul Clement might well be.
What the frick do I know about Brian Kidd?
Exactly. He was assistant manager at Man United for years and was terrible.
I get that.
Paul Clement.
Peter Taylor could say it for us.
Paul Clement might
Steve
be.
McLaren.
Paul Clement might be a brilliant manager, but why is it us that are going to take the chance?
Because
to find
he's
out?
a QPR man.
It's a massive
and his
punt.
dad was a QPR
It's a massive. You don't think it's that big a deal, but I think it's huge that they have a connection to the club. You look at the atmosphere at the club at the moment; it's quite negative. If you bring someone in that you know the fans are going to warm to instantly, then that will give them a huge lift.
I mean, let's face it, his dad was a QPR legend.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, Dave was probably up there with my favourite player in that team. I mean,
We've got a QPR legend as director of football, and people are complaining. That shouldn't be.
No, I agree.
It helps, but
Agreed.
it shouldn't be a requirement.
But then it means you shouldn't have to explain the club to him or the ethos of the club or what the club's about. He will know it. He's got it in his veins, and he gets it.
So
we need to think outside the box sometimes as well. I know I go for the Holloway and Bircham thing. I'm saying that as a fan, but I just hope the club think of something, do it outside the box, and get it right for once. Because if we get this wrong, we could pay for it in 5 years.
What about Clement and Bircham? I mean, would Clement, or somebody like that?
Well, look at the
Ainsworth or
the only manager's job he's taken at Derby. He left them 5th in the league. Bizarrely, they got rid of him, and they've never really been up there in the table since. He did well there.
So you're saying Clement?
I would, but I don't think he's going to leave Bayern Munich midway through the season. If it was the summer, then I think he would.
But is QPR the club he would leave Bayern Munich for? I mean,
he was
left for
originally
Derby.
in history.
Yeah.
He's been out there on the pitch when we've had these brilliant days. Again, as we all know, the stuff the club do off the pitch is brilliant. They just haven't got the on the pitch stuff sorted out yet. But maybe we'd be too big a pull for him to turn down, which sounds bizarre, leaving someone like Bayern Munich for QPR. But
Well, no, I mean, he was the original dream manager. Let's be honest. So.
Yeah.
I just say that I don't want Sherwood at all, but I mean, there are a couple of positives that he has in his favour because he knows Ferdinand. Obviously, he knows Ferdinand well. He's worked with him in the past, so there won't be any issues with those two. Les Ferdinand's not going anywhere. He's still going to be director of football, whoever comes in. So there won't be any issues there, you'd imagine. And also, he does have. He has the ability to kind of lift players. You can imagine him doing good team talks, and whereas Hasselbaink was kind of, even when he was on the podcast, he was very umming and he couldn't really get his message across properly.
He makes me look happy.
Yeah.
I think if we take Sherwood, we've got to have a 4-point plan, which is no saluting, no mention of his win record percentage at Spurs.
What about the blue and white gilet?
Yeah, I was just coming to that. No gilets, and no signing Adebayor on loan. I think if you stick to those 4, then you've got a chance.
What is it about Sherwood that most people don't want? Because from what I've seen on Twitter and everything else, it's pretty. No one really wants him.
It's because he certainly comes across as being a bit full of himself, and he's turned us down once already, and reportedly because of money. I don't know whether that's the truth. I mean, I look back on his
I don't
record today.
Get that.
He's tactically
Where does Tim
terrible.
Sherwood get off being an expensive recruit as a manager. He's done nothing.
Yeah.
He's
He should
tactically
be
inept.
working for free. All right, not working for
a
free.
bit harsh.
Not working for free. But he has no right to dictate.
Grace, I've never gone for an interview with you.
He has no right. No, true. He has no right to dictate any salary terms to any professional football club because he has no experience.
But if we weren't paying enough last time, either his stock has fallen so far that we're able to pay a less wage, or we're going for broke and we're giving him what he wants, or at least meeting him halfway. Either of those alternatives seems a bit.
But what about the other thing of going down the leagues again? I know it hasn't worked once with Hasselbaink, but you could actually look at someone like Neil Yardley at AFC Wimbledon, who's doing a brilliant job down there. There's people in the lower leagues who have
Phil
done
Parkinson's doing well at Bolton. You've got
Gareth Ainsworth,
Parkinson,
Sean Derry.
Alexander at Scunthorpe. Scunthorpe.
That's a great show,
tearing
by the
up the division at the moment. They've
That's
got
a great show.
20+ goal difference. And again, I know you're diving back into lower leagues, and that's what we did with Hasselbaink. But as I mentioned earlier, the thing with Hasselbaink, certainly that I didn't check exactly how those wins he got came along, which is like 1-0, 1-0.
But you can't say that because it hasn't worked once. I mean, what we do badly is we went for the. You look at everyone we've gone for. They've had to have a big name. Do you know what I mean? Like Harry Redknapp, Mark Hughes, and we said earlier on, why did they not Mark Hughes? Because they seemed to get away with just ban what they want it, get as much money as they want it, and fill the squad up with players we couldn't get rid of. And that's another thing every manager suffered from after that, is having a whole squad of players that he needs to replace.
But I think they've got away from that, because I think that the whole that Hasselbaink wouldn't have been an appointment 3-4 years ago.
Because you say that, but there's a whole lot of players coming this summer that someone else is now going to take on that's not their players.
But yeah, I mean, unfortunately, that's the way of the world across football now. I mean, I think someone mentioned nobody's been here for much longer than a year, but I mean, there's not that many clubs where that's the case.
No.
But then,
only a handful in the
ironically,
Championship.
Leeds stuck with Gary Monk. I mean, when they played us on the first day of the season,
Well, just because we beat them.
And they're going well now.
They've got better, we've got worse.
They were absolutely dreadful. But now, and well, we've sort of gone downhill. I mean, it seemed to be the Hasselbaink abandoned whatever plan he did have after the Barnsley defeat. It certainly looked like that anyway. Whereas Leeds have slowly, it's one of those classic under the radar, and you suddenly look at the table and they're 6. Like, how the hell did they get there?
I tell you who, and you're gonna pull me in this. I know you are.
Oh yeah.
Michael O'Neill wouldn't be a bad shout either. For what he's done at Northern Ireland, working with very decent players, but some would say limited resources. But I wouldn't be that rude about my own country.
Before you react to
Michael O'Neill.
before you react to Michael O'Neill,
Jesus, I knew you'd do
I'm going to
that
turn the Facebook Live off. If you've been listening to us on Facebook Live, thank you very much for listening.
come again.
And tune into the podcast to hear our
I
reaction.
hope you deleted the original draw.
I did.
Yeah.
Tune in to the podcast to hear our reaction to Michael O'Neill. If you've been listening to the podcast, then just go and watch our Facebook Live because you'll be able to see the video. Right, we better say goodbye. Say
Cheerio.
goodbye to... Bye-bye.
See ya. Right, go on
Bye.
then. Michael O'Neill, what's... I know you're going to say it's because you're Northern Irish, you're going to say that, but in every department, he ticks quite a lot of boxes for QPR. He's worked with a small squad. He's had the players. You can't go out and get who you want from Northern Ireland. You've got to just, who's born there or whatever. Or grandparents rule. So is it a good shout, or is international football?
It's hard. It is hard. After you said it to us on text last night, and I didn't want to immediately jump down your throat and say
Which
don't
makes
be
a nice
ridiculous. So I did actually look him up and look up his record. I suppose the question is, he's got a good League of Ireland record. Is that what it's called?
League of Ireland, yeah.
He's got a good League of Ireland record. Is that how's that going to stack up against the Championship?
Well,
I don't know.
take them into the UEFA League is major. It's almost like an English club winning the Champions League to get that, because so many games, the part-time players, blah blah, done well. But the only thing I would say about Michael O'Neill is it would kill me country, and secondly, he would take time to get it right, because he took a campaign to get Northern Ireland right.
How
and we
much
had some
time
bad
do you give
results.
people? I mean,
Well, this is it.
Well, Hasselbaink got 11 months. I'm not sure if O'Neill's the right answer. He might be, but
might bring the best out in Connor Washington.
but there's no reason why he can't look
Stick
outside
a
the
green
box.
shirt on.
I don't.
Go on.
Why do these 8 names have? Why does it have to come out of someone?
Well,
one
those-
of the obvious candidates.
Well,
Like,
I mean,
go
I know.
abroad, you mean? Look abroad.
Well, Huddersfield did
Germany.
it. They've done all right.
Yeah. The only thing, my wish for this role is that it goes to someone who has earned it. Because we're QPR,
good one.
we are, okay, we're not the biggest club, but it's a good job, it's a big
An excellent job.
and it shouldn't go to someone who hasn't earned it. So that means Tim Sherwood, no. To me, I can see, yes, Paul Clement might well be a very good manager, but he's managed a handful of games. So it's a massive poker play. It's a massive bluff to give him the job because you don't know. There's no track record. It should go to a man who has earned it. 200, 300, 400 games minimum as a manager.
Who the players are going to respect. I mean, you say what you like about Jimmy Floyd Hasselbaink, but the response they gave on Saturday would suggest that he hasn't lost the dressing room, would suggest that they're playing for him. Do you think, Paul?
I'm thinking about that. I don't know. If they were, then Cole Henry, I wouldn't have anywhere near me as a friend.
No.
If you're relying on Cole Henry to get you out of a dodgy situation, then you don't go. You do your best to get sent off, even though what he did. Because what you don't see on the TV is what he was doing before that. He was niggly from the first minute. It was
I read
bizarre.
Clive's excellent report, and he just said that he just wouldn't leave the referee alone. It was
bizarre.
Yeah.
And he's not like that. And he's the most experienced player on the park as well. I tell you what will be interested as well, and everyone was said it for ages. We need a leader on the pitch. We need a leader off the pitch, and we need a leader in the chairman's suite. That's what this club desperately needs at the moment, and I hope that's what comes out of this chance we've got now to get it right, and we have to get it right now, and all three need to be addressed. We need leaders at QPR.
Okay, before the hours end, one name. You give me a nice name. You give me a nice name for the manager's job. Okay?
That was uncomfortably scary.
Have a think and give me a nice name.
You really should stop that.
Okay.
Guardiola.
Barry Guardiola. No, come on. Who is your... Know your colours to the mast. You can do that. Whatever you're about to say, you can do in your arse end.
Okay.
Know your colours to the mast. A manager. A name now.
Paul Clement.
Paul Finney.
Well, I said to go for Holloway or Birch. If that's not...
Actually, I've changed it to Ian Holloway.
Yeah. I would like to see... It's so tricky. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think, to be honest with you, the only people who that we can bring in now to lift the place would be an ex-Ranger, which is not necessarily sometimes the best thing, because if anyone can kill legends like Jerry Francis and everyone else and Les Ferdinand, this club will do it in some ways. So you kind of hasten not to go down that road too much. But Bircham and Holloway would excite everyone, I think. I'm giving up. Feeling that, I would like to see Clement come in and have a go, but I would not want to see fans kind of give any. We've got to give time now to someone, but I think I said the box.
We need to put bums on seats again. We need to get people excited. We don't need people looking glassy-eyed after 20 minutes. I think Bircham and Holloway are definitely give it initial push.
Name.
I would question whether Holloway's been out of the game for too long, but then he has been watching a lot of Championship.
Name.
Graham Alexander.
That is an excellent shout, you know.
Yeah.
I actually really of all the.
I'll go Holloway and Bircham to the end of the season, or Carl Robinson.
But don't you think this is a thing that we need to take time over this time? No knee jerk. Don't rush in. Just get it.
I'd be satisfied. I'd be happy with a man to the end of the season.
I bet you would.
Okay.
He said that with a straight face as well.
Ours end. I'll go first. My ours end is thank you to everybody who took part in our Twitter poll this week. So we asked when the stories came out yesterday that Tim Sherwood was hot favourite for the QPR job. We asked on Twitter, what do you think? Yes or no? We had 1,500 responses, and it was is unequivocal a word, journalists?
It is,
yes.
Yeah.
It was 78% of QPR fans who answered our poll said no. Thank you very much. I think that's pretty emphatic.
That's Neil done then.
Very emphatic.
Chris Mendes.
I've got a few stats. I noticed some similarities between Hasselbaink and Chris Ramsey when they left the club. So Chris Ramsey was sacked by QPR on the 4th of November 2015. Hasselbaink was sacked by QPR on the 5th of November 2016. Ramsey was dismissed after a run of just one win in 5 championship games. Hasselbaink also dismissed after a run of just one win in 5 championship matches. Ramsey left QPR with the club 6 points off the playoff places. Hasselbaink also left the club 6 points off the playoff places. Ramsey's penultimate game in charge, defeat against Brentford. Hasselbank's penultimate match in charge, defeat against Brentford. Ramsey's last game in charge, an away game at Derby County, a club once managed by Brian Clough. Hasselbank's last game in charge.
Oh,
Away game at
now
Nottingham
you're
Forest.
stretching it, yeah.
I'd say he's doing well, though.
Doing well.
QPR player in Ramsey sent off for 2 bookable offences in Ramsey's last game, same as Hasselbank's. Kevin Stroud, the referee for Ramsey's last game. Kevin Stroud, referee for Hasselbank's last game.
Bloody hell, man.
Very good. So what's the moral of the story?
Hang on, last one. Ramsey rejoined QPR's technical director on January the 5th, 2016. Hasselbank rejoined QPR's technical director on January 15th, 2017.
Oh, I see. Very good.
That's
I
almost
don't know what
good.
that tells us, but it tells us that
He can't sleep at night.
you're struggling to sleep.
There are liars, damn lies, and there are statistics. Is that the same?
Exactly.
Chris,
yeah. It's just-
you look poised.
Well, I just this is from a couple of weeks. I haven't been on for a couple of weeks.
We've missed you.
Yeah, thanks very much. But against Brentford, the highlight there was my daughter, after 6 years of being a season ticket holder, was finally got the call to be a mascot. Well, she's only got 2 months left before she's 12, so that was the last chance. So I'd just like to say thank you very much to the club, because she had an absolutely brilliant day and was on Sky TV because it happened to coincide, with that Brentford game. But there was a guy there who had his son with him. He's called Anders Helland. I hope that's his correct pronunciation. Alexander, his son, from Norway.
Norway.
Norway, yes, way.
I'm going there next year.
Oh yeah.
Thanks,
that's
Paul.
nice.
Carry on.
I'd like to shout out to him. And the following day, there was 50 Norwegian R's meeting in the Queen's Tavern, their AGM. And what they do is they pull season tickets. I know, Paul, you know a few Scandinavian fans, and then they take it in turns to come over for games. It's
brilliant.
And his son was
Brilliant.
there, and he was absolutely. You could just see. I think it was like second game there or whatever, but he was absolutely drinking it all in, and it was just really nice to see, and he was a lovely chap. So yeah, shout out to him. And
11-year-old son in the pub drinking it all in. I think we've heard enough of this story. Paul.
Well, first of all...
No first, second and third of all. We're against the clock here. The cleaner's about to kick us out. Go on.
That's fine. I've got to say hello to Liam, who I met on the train on the way home, who was reminding me when I first came over from the homeland. He was very enthusiastic, just pleased to see QPR play, going with his family, and you can't beat that for an away day. And thank you, Liam. It was lovely to meet you.
Hi, Liam.
And
Liam.
And maybe you should. Not
Liam what?
Gallagher.
I don't know his surname.
Okay, good mate of
He
yours.
was from
Good
Cork.
friend.
He was
Yeah.
in Cork. And the other thing is that I will say is, last thing, a lot of people blame the fans for the manager getting sacked. There was never ever a chant to get the manager sacked. There might have been 2 or 3 people doing it, but it was never. The fans did not hound this manager out, and people have got to stop saying that because it's not true. At the end of the day, the board higher and far, not the fans. You can't please everyone, and everyone's got different opinions, but you can't take a section of fans and say they run the club because they don't.
There was a few at Brentford in the sort of QR block region,
Yeah.
but then to be fair, they got shouted down. So.
And certainly on Saturday there was actually the opposite. The fact the players got applauded heavily on Saturday for putting the effort they did in the second half. So it's not fair to say he's handed out. And I hope he goes on to bigger and better things, Jimmy, and doesn't get remembered for being his time at QPR, which is pretty dire.
Okay. Sorry, I came in too quickly.
It might make a few quid
almost-
talking about it and the after dinner circuit, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the plus side, his speeches now got up to 60,000.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, well, we're not planning to do a podcast next week, but let's reserve judgment depending on if there's an appointment made. All
I
the
want
rest
to
of
do
it.
the balls thing again.
Well, I don't think we will, but it depends when. If there's a
we
manager, if
should.
there's an appointment made tomorrow, it might be. Let's see.
Why don't we interview the managers on the podcast?
Because we do, and then they get sacked.
No, I mean,
6 weeks later, that's what happens.
Why can't we
That's
do-
what happened with Jimmy. That's what happened with Chris Ramsey.
Maybe
I think we can safely say we're never getting another manager from the club.
let's
on
tell the
podcast.
club we won't tell anyone, but stick a microphone on, in the interview, and then come in here and do it.
Well, normal service will be no podcast next week, but let's see. Otherwise, there really isn't. There's no predictions to do, is there? There's just.
No,
why
no,
don't you talk us out by thanking Jimmy Floyd Hasselbaink for everything he's done for the club?
Northern Ireland are going to beat Azerbaijan on Friday. How are you guys going to get on against Scotland?
Goodbye.
The QPR podcast is supported by Ubico, the provider of rental cars by the hour, who are giving away over £2,000 in credit to our listeners. For your chance to win up to £250 in free credit towards away game travel, short journeys across town, or car club use, enter now at west12media.co.uk/enter. To find out more, visit ubico.co.uk or download their app now.
QPR, QPR, Chris Rangers.